Good morning, friends. It's a pleasure to be back again this Sunday, and I'm very happy to announce that we have with us Mr. G. Gautam, who will be talking to us on facts, ideas, and ideals. Mr. Gautam needs no introduction in case circle anywhere, but for those of us who are hearing him for the first time, I'll briefly introduce Gautam sir. He has a BTech degree in metallurgy from IIT Madras and has worked as a scientist at Bhabha Atomic Research Center for 5 years and was also an engineering consultant for 10 years before he joined the KFI. Currently, he is serving as Director Secretary of the Palar Center for Learning, comprising Parthasaradhi School, outreach programs, and a Kashmuti Study Center. Sri Gautam was also principal of the school KFI from 1991 to 2009, where he guided several initiatives such as mixed age group learning in junior and middle school, active learning for the SSA that was taken to 50,000 classrooms in October 2007, a dynamic wide learning program for high school students, and establishing a short-term teacher training program. The core of his work has been to facilitate the building of a robust and sustainable staff culture through which initiative and change can emerge from within an educational institution. He is a senior trustee of the KFI, and I want to extend a very warm welcome to Gautam sir and also want to thank him for accepting our invitation to speak before this group. Sir, you can take as long as you want. And after your talk is over, we can open the field for question and answer session. And Harshad sir, before we upload the recordings on the YouTube, I'll request you to send it to Gautam sir so that he can have a look at it. And once we get a green signal from him, then we can upload it on the YouTube. I think this is okay.
Thank you, Dubiji, and thank you, Harshad. Good to see you here. I'd like to thank the Indore JK Circle for one more invitation to join you on a Sunday morning to share some thoughts, to see if possible there is some inquiry that we can be part of together, to see what we can share under the umbrella of the teachings of Krishnamurti, which are so wide and which have such profound implications, which look so beautiful and at the same time sometimes so difficult. So it's interesting that we have gathered here thanks to technology from various parts of the country. I don't know if some people are also some other part of the country, some other part of the world. It doesn't matter. And we can be together, maybe not in a circle, but in a two-dimensional matrix of squares and cubes. It would be nice if you switch on your videos, because then I can see you and have a little more of a feeling of being together with people rather than only speaking to boxes. If you're only speaking to boxes, we can switch off all our videos and just record this and get on with and get whatever we are doing. I'm happy to see some of my recent old students from Pathshala. They have come here. They've also joined this conversation. They've been part of many conversations in Pathshala, and they see it as significant or meaningful and of sufficient lightness and meaning for them to join us also today. So I'm very happy they have also joined us today. So the question about facts is very interesting to me, has been very interesting to me. As a person who studied science and who worked in the arena of science for several years, there's a certain notion we have of objectivity, and facts seem to represent this objectivity. Facts are, those that we can agree upon easily, we can agree upon together, and therefore facts are those which become very important, very vital, and we distinguish it from those which are not facts, which is those which you and I may have different opinions about. In our daily life, we use the word fact quite easily and often. When we say this is a fact, we usually mean it's obvious. It's something that you and I should be able to agree on easily. It also means something is visible, tangible, and can be experienced by all. Now, having said that, let me go into this a little bit more. There are many things we call facts. The distance between Chennai and New Delhi is 1800 kilometers. My neighbor is 5 foot 8, 11 inches tall. Average lifespan of human beings has been increasing over the past century. We can call this information, we can call this data, and it can be substantiated by various kinds of measurements. So this is easily agreed information, data, etc. Then my mother or father get upset when I return home late in the evening. I feel nervous before an examination. Dog barks whenever the neighbor walks his dog. The dog barks whenever the neighbor walks his dog. These can also be called facts. They point to a pattern. There are, however, hidden statements. There are hidden shoulds, for instance. My parents get upset when I come home late in the evening. They should not get upset. I don't like it when they get upset. All that is hidden in this question. I don't like being nervous, but that is what I feel before an exam. The dog makes a lot of noise and I wish he would not do that. It irritates me. So to simply say one dog barks whenever the neighbor walks his dog is an observation. But why is that observation important? It does something to me, that's why I state it. Otherwise, why would I state it? Then there's a whole different realm of what we sometimes call facts. He is a good human being. We have heard this many times. She is quite a confused character. They are a pious couple who go to the church or the temple each Sunday. I hope we haven't all gathered here like pious couples going to church on a Sunday for this Sunday meeting. I hope it will not be of that genre. I'm sure you are beginning to see how each of these also have hidden assumptions. I think he's a good human being, but I have criteria in my head. He's kind and donates money to charity. I feel she's confused character because she sometimes says one thing and then says something different. I think to slowly examine all sides of a situation is to be confused and a sign of not being bright. Look at the judgments which are buried behind this. I see the neighbor couple go like clockwork each Sunday to a church or a temple, and I've been told it's good to have good habits. Therefore, I think they are a pious religious couple. I also feel I would like to be like them. It will make me move in the right direction. Though I'm not able to do it, I can't manage it every Sunday. I find this kind of discipline very difficult. So we see the realm of facts, which are nothing, and ideas which are nothing but our thoughts. Facts and thoughts are getting a little fuzzy. The words we use to describe things become important, and we try to grasp reality through words and commonly used phrases. We try to grasp it, we try to hold it. Let us go a little further in our walk through this garden. And as we walk on, we meet a stranger. Stranger asks us, "Who are you?" If someone asks me who I am, I know they are actually asking, "What are you called?" So I give them my name and people feel they know me. I say my name is Raghav or Meera or Sultana, Dubey, Aman, Gautam or Robert or Beatrice or Nadal or Djokovic. That is what I've been called. We have been given names is a fact. The name is me or I am the name cannot be a fact. The name is given to refer to this person and distinguish this person from other people. It is like a roll number. We certainly not are a roll number, but names are like that. I remember my roll number in college, 1.136 bar 67. What a fantastic roll number we had in college. It seems funny to say I'm a number, but we are very close to that. Our coordinates are numbers and alphabets like the Aadhaar or social security number in the West. And our name and place of birth and date of birth and born to parents, all are coordinates of origin and location and bank particulars. I don't know if with this answer, you know who I am. You ask me a question, who are you? And I don't know if this is an answer. Now, for a moment, we take a turn in this garden on our walk. And let us consider that there's another individual there whom we ask the same question. And this person who's sitting on a bench says, I am a human being who happens to be here in this house now, wearing these clothes, who's roughly of the age 40, but don't get fooled by this. I'm as old as mankind, as I have within me prejudices, violent tendencies, fear, and possessiveness. I myself find myself drawn to some foods. I have favorite foods. Some people, and similarly, I dislike some foods and feel like moving away from certain people. I have deep preferences and dislikes and move between them much of the time. I have a name given to me and I'm told that I belong to a certain caste and a religion. These are things that have been given to me and I have not understood what this means. If somebody were to give an answer like this, we will either say this man is philosophical or that he's mad and quickly say, okay, let's have the next cup of tea or something. But he could go on. Huh? He might say a little more. You could also say, like most of mankind, I don't know who I am. And so find your question difficult to answer. I'm like all human beings. So similar that the small things like fair skin, medium stature, length of hair or color of eyes makes not much of a difference. Within all the outer shapes of this living human being is one who functions according to a deeply coded pattern like all others. This being is hurtling towards death, which comes quickly or on a hospital bed after a lot of struggle and occupies itself. This being occupies itself with safety, security, feeling sad sometimes, angry sometimes, elated sometimes, nervous at other times, feeling superior or feeling cheated. This being surrounds itself with things and rituals and people. And like most others, I enter into relationships, reproduce, and will leave a legacy of genes and a little more. Legacy of living without knowing who I am. Now, if we were to really encounter somebody like this who gave an answer like this, would you say just the name, the address, and the number are facts? Or would you call these also facts? Interesting question, isn't it? We are also known by other attributes: hardworking, efficient, reliable, clear-headed, lazy, ineffective, confused, undependable, though pleasant and kind. Are these facts? Or are these just some words that we have attached, born out of our predilection, our history? Is the fact a living thing? Can I say that I have grasped this fact about myself or another human being or life? Or can I say all life is transient? I saw this in a moment of clarity, and so it is now a fact. Can I say that? There are aphorisms plenty in the religious literature. There are aphorisms in the Theosophical Society, among the Hindu traditions, in the Judeo-Christian traditions. But is what is encapsulated in words, does it become a fact automatically? It may be a truth, meaning somebody has seen a pattern and given a word to it, but when does it become a fact for me? Can I say, I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. Can I say, we are all one under the skin, and so are brothers and sisters. After all, we all feel the same things. We all have some genetic inheritance. We all have propensities. I saw this in a moment of clarity, and so now it's a fact. But the other day, you, my dear friend, you come home or I meet you somewhere and you drop my favorite cup. And the cup bursts, not only breaks, but it also spills all the tea, coffee onto the legs and onto the clothes. At that moment, can I say we are all one under the skin? I think it's important to see that while the moment of clarity may be a fact at that moment, the surge of anger is a fact in the next moment. Our mind immediately jumps to the reconciliation. Like people working in banks do, they have to do reconciliation, of accounts. Both these statements cannot be true at the same time, that we are brothers and sisters. And then, so I'm in crisis. So this is when a measuring has occurred. One better than the other. And therefore, the other has to be suppressed or changed. As I'm feeling anger, I can't stay with it. I feel guilty and bad. The surge of anger was a fact. In its aftermath, thought surfaced, another fact. Guilt surfaced, another fact. And suddenly, in a moment, one may see how the mind is jumping, how it's wanting to find security. Another fact. and the operation of thought may cease. A fact. Thought may jump in again and say, how wonderful. Mind describing and celebrating is the next fact. What does it mean to live with a fact? If something is a fact, it has solidity and it has in our minds an unchanging quality. Fact, as we are speaking about it, as I have understood from what Krishnamurti says, fact is from moment to moment. Fact is a living thing and needs to be understood in the moment. It cannot be governed by thought. Thought feeds on fact and tries to give it a direction. Krishnamurti says in one place, ideas and ideals are one thing, and fact, the actual happening, is another. The two can never come together. Ideals have been imposed upon facts and twist what is happening to conform to what should be the ideal. The utopia is a conclusion drawn from what is happening. Something is happening and the utopia is a conclusion drawn from that. This has been the process of millennia, and every student and all the intellectuals revel in ideations. The avoidance of what is the beginning of the corruption of the mind. This corruption pervades all religions, politics, and education, all human relationships. The understanding of this process of avoidance and going beyond it is our concern. So I think I've been speaking for a little while. If there are some questions, something we can go on with that. We don't have to stick to the format of 40 minutes talk and then something else later, question and answers. If there are any ideas, thoughts, questions you would like to express, please go ahead.
Yeah, there are two people who have asked. Yes, Dr. Harshad Parekh and then Dinesh Waghmare.
Yes, thank you, Gautama. Initially in your talk, you talked about science, and I feel that even among scientists, they are not in agreement about any theory. Just like a quantum theory, Einstein opposed it for a long time, and Niels Bohr and others, they supported it, and they had a dialogues for 30 years. And even then, Einstein was not convinced that the quantum theory is correct. And he was trying to find some other theory which can explain quantum phenomena. That is one thing. And the other thing which I want to say is the ideal. Krishnaji says, ideal is a marvelous and respectable escape from the actual. So I feel that is true, that ideal is not a fact. Being violent, the mind projects its opposite, and the ideal of non-violence. And so ideal creates a kind of conflict between what is and what it likes to be. So the real Krishnamurti's teachings are about seeing exactly what is going on moment by moment in our mind, and the mind is continuously changing, as you said. So sometimes I compared the mind like a soap bubble. When you have a soap bubble, the colors on the soap bubble are continuously changing. And so our mind is also continuously changing. And to see it clearly, I think it requires something other than the mind or the thinking mind. It requires the ability to see what is happening in the mind, and Krishnamurti calls that as awareness. And that dimension of awareness is completely different than thoughts and feelings. And generally, this dimension is not awakened, and that's why we get so many problems in relationship. We get angry, and there is a conflict, arguments. All this happens when there is no clear seeing of the mind from moment to moment. So Krishnamurti's teachings, I feel, is about that awareness, which is, we can also call it intelligence, which is a higher dimension than intellect. So, okay, I have said enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harshad. Yes, Mr. Dinesh Waghmare.
Are you able to listen to me, sir? Voice is coming clear to you? Are you able
Yeah.
to listen to me?
Yes, please.
Gautam sir, actually you said that facts are only if general, as the persons are having generalities common in them. Say human beings are having 2 eyes and 2 hands and all that. Similarly, individuality is also a fact, isn't it? So fact is basically all inclusive. It is not only the generalities you said as the fact is, in my views. Also, ideals, as you rightly said, because of individuality, anger comes into the picture, and because of generality, people say that we are all brothers and all that. But as soon as what are the ideas and ideals? People are trying to maneuver the best out of this. Means they want to take care of individuality also, and they want to take care of generality also. So that's why the best ideas and best ideals came into picture, isn't it? Similarly, mind, normally, yes, you said this common person mind works either this or that. But mind has to understand that both are realities, and both are even the contradictory things are also in existence simultaneously. So both are realities. We can't say that this thing is fact and that thing is not fact. So this is also one has to see. What are your views on this?
Thank you. Let me add a little bit to some comments to what you said, sir. First, I think we use the word conflict, use the word contradiction. Krishnamurti says, can you watch anger like a jewel? But I feel that when I get angry or when I experience some emotion which I feel I should not be feeling, I'm not able to look at it like a jewel. Because the flow of conditioning, the pressure of conditioning is so strong, it immediately wants to maximize the good thing, reduce the bad thing, within quotes, good and bad. That is how the mind simplifies this and tries to change this. So it is not so much a matter of whether we have to accept this as a theory, standing outside and say, yes, I'm good, I'm bad, I have to accept both. That's also a formula in some sense. In the daily unfolding, do I see this happening? Do I see, am I able to observe and notice what is happening? And even in the noticing, when I notice something even, immediately thought can creep in. And one may miss the observation completely. I'm not using the word attention at the moment because let us discover what that is. What would that mean? To be in touch with the fact moment to moment as one fact unfolds, another fact unfolds, and there's a series of facts. Can we observe it without judgment? Can we observe it without wishing it away? Can we observe it without feeling, with judging it as saying that it is wrong, this should not be happening, and I am a worse human being because I'm experiencing this? Yes, please. Mr. Shakti Kumar? Or Mr. Pradeep Verma? I don't know who had a hand first.
I think we'll have Mr. Pradeep Verma first and then Shakti ji.
Yes, yes. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Namaskar, Gautam ji. Nice to hear your crisp talk. A very important topic today, facts, ideas, and ideals. All the three condition human mind. All the three are capable of conditioning human mind, depending on their bringing up or interaction with the surroundings. I have two simple questions. First is whether these three words are concepts, outcome of an intellectual mind. Question number one. Question second is whether fact can be accessible to a condition. I was thrilled expressions like passing on, leaving legacy of living without knowing who am I. I enjoyed this. Then fact is a living thing, or fact in and objectivity in science. Objects are measurable connected to immeasurable and will always be incomplete to an observer. These are some of the observations. So first thing is, we invariably talk about facts, seeing things as they are. Whether I can see with my limitedness and conditioning, of course, the answer may be, obvious answer may be no. But then what is that fact we are looking for? You have given a number of examples, whether facts have feelings also, whether feelings are included in facts. I think if you take subjectivity, everything automatically comes with facts. And then ultimately it transition into beliefs and all that. This is what I think. Thank you very much, sir, giving me enough time. Thank you. If you can respond, please do that.
Sir, I'm not clear. What is the question you're asking? Are you asking, are we talking about these three words as if they are concepts? Is that what you're asking? Because that was not clear to me.
That is one thing. Whether the same mind is the outcome of the same mind, which we all carry, or whether facts can be accessible, can be seen by a conditioned mind.
Okay,
Yeah, we are always talking.
I can admit this question, because your question is, as I hear it, sir, is Gautama, you have chosen this topic of facts, ideas and ideals. Where is it coming from? What is your interest in it? Is it just coming out of some intellectual understanding or intellectual curiosity? Where is it coming from? Just I can meet that question. You know, in 1989, I had this question: what is the fact and what is not a fact? What is real and what is the gossamer mirage of imagination? I was really struggling with this question. And one morning when I was sitting up, there was some kind of clarity about this question. And I'll share those few words which I wrote at that time with you. When I look out of the window and see a tree, there springs a question. I see the leaves and the branches with the vocabulary of fragments. I name the tree in words. Neither the idiom of fragments nor the words really get me to be in touch with the fact of what is there. I try to see without thought, and what I see, what I experience, is neither a description nor an image. There is something out there that is a fact. I call it a tree. By calling it a tree, I lose that something. in touch with that something, I'm wordless. To discover fact, one has to cast away from the moorings of words and images so affectionately engraved in our minds. So this was a very interesting exploration for me. And when we work with children, when we are talking in education, when we have conversations, we often discuss, is it a fact that you're talking about, or is this your opinion? We try to understand this. But do we notice also that when one is in touch with a fact, that contact with the fact has nothing to do with word? In fact, Krishnamurti in Rishi Valley once made a very profound statement. I mean, he said, I maintain that the education that we are offering in our schools has nothing to do with knowledge. And there was an uproar because people didn't agree with him at all. He listened to all the arguments. I heard this from Mark Lee. And then at the end of it, he said, I still maintain what I said. That knowledge is one thing, and being in touch with the real and the actual is another thing. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but that is the manner in which this topic connects to who I am as a human being. Yes, sir.
Yes, Shakti ji, unmute yourself. Unmute, yes.
Is my voice reaching, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. Your talk reminded me of two statements of Krishnamurti at different places. He says, truth is not static. And at other place, he mentions to the listener, you are not static. So I have this question. In your article, A Case for a Simple Structure and Form, at one place, you write about what is the right answer changes to what are three possible approaches to a question. I try to understand it in this way, like suppose somebody says, is there God and hereafter? And one approach can be to say, yes, there is God and there is hereafter. It cannot be argued about. Second approach is, there is no God, no hereafter, and it's just imagination. And third approach is, I am not sure. In fact, it's on my agenda whether there is God or not, whether there is hereafter or not, because I don't know the implications of these things. So these three approaches can be to that single question. But what happens with me, that the third answer or the third approach is my personal approach. And the previous ones were just my, inferences or repeating something which I have listened. So I would like to understand it more, what you were trying to say. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you for bringing in a very interesting question, sir. Recently walking from the dining hall to the learning spaces, I was accosted by a 10-year-old, and she asked me the same question, do you believe in God? You might think that when you work in school, you're in a very safe zone, and you only have to kind of spread knowledge and give your superior wisdom to children, but nothing could be farther from the truth in a Krishnamurti school. So this girl asked me, do you believe in God? I said, well, some people say there is God and some others. She said, yes, that's what I have also heard. But what do you think? I said, well, I think man is not able to understand creation. And he attempts to look for some reasons by which this whole thing happened, how thunder and lightning happened, and how when people feel fear, they feel there is somebody to go to, all these things. She said, people have told me all this, but I'm not sure there's a God. And they say the God is a man. But what about how do they know that God is not a woman? And then she went on further to ask very difficult question. She said, nobody has seen God. And they say God created this earth. How can somebody who is on the earth create the earth? It's not possible. She's going very logically about it, and she refused to accept things that she'd been told. And she told me that this vacation, she's going to be trying to understand this question about, is there God? It was a very profound conversation with a 10-year-old. And like you rightly say, that these are the deep questions that we don't have answers to. Now, should I tell this girl, should I condition her with my own thinking? How do I relate to this person? How do I relate to the person who's inquiring into something? Can I co-inquire with her? Can I do that alongside? And yes, there are multiple answers. She came up with the multiple answers. So there are multiplicity of possibilities, multiplicity of approaches. And human history is very old. People with different cultures, different civilizations have done different things. And how do we hold this multiplicity? So in some sense, in that article, what I had mentioned was with regard to the expansion of the mind to allow for multiplicity and not just caught with just one approach. So I don't know if I've answered the question that you had in mind, but these are some thoughts I have on the subject.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, Lakshmi, please unmute yourself. Unmute. Yes.
Namaste. The speaker excellently spoke, and one thing is, I'm learning from him. It's a new way and an interesting way of presentation. I want to copy this presentation because I like it, and really he is making all of us to project our own ideas. He is not concluding anywhere. It's very interesting. Exactly, that's what Krishnamurti was doing, and excellently he presented the matter, and all are projecting their own thoughts or reactions on that. And I am happy. I understand. What I learned is this type of presentation is very much interesting, and throughout every second with a lot of interest, everybody is listening. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
You can say you are finding it interesting. You don't know whether others are finding it interesting or whether it's boring or is not living up to their expectations. You cannot say that. But anyway, thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your kind word. Yes, Krishnamurti's approach is one where he says the individual has to find out for himself or herself. That's absolutely true. That's his approach, yes.
Very nice.
Dubeji, there is a gentleman called Parthasaradhi.
Yes, I'll come to him after Prasad, sir.
Yeah, Haji, Haji.
Yeah. We are going by a queue. Yes. Yes, Prasad, sir, please go ahead.
Sir, obviously, Gautam sir is very learned and has gone deep into all these questions. But for me, firstly, I appreciate his point that the fact is not simply something physical, that he is tall or that the house is big or These are all facts verifiable. But of course, I find our politicians have a way of differing even on those facts, those physical facts. Somebody says X has a very big house and X denies it. He says it's a very small house. So that's of course not very relevant here. Facts can be physical. On that, there can't be much controversy. But then Krishnaji has gone beyond that. He is talking of psychological facts, that I am depressed, that I am envious, that I am greedy. These are all facts. So he is talking more about psychological facts or emotional facts. There can be emotional facts also. That when I am angry, yes, that is an emotional fact. And the contrast is between what is the facts which are there and the ideals or the ideas about it. So I think we need not unnecessarily complicate the matter. It is very, very straightforward. Most of us, we want to go into some ideal. Krishnaji has given that example of violence and non-violence. I was reading, I think I was listening somewhere where he wanted to say Mahatma Gandhi. First, his impulse was to say Mahatma Gandhi. Then he corrected himself in a way and said Mr. Gandhi, because he does not kind of approve of that line of thinking. That is non-violence. Non-violence is an ideal. It is obviously a screen. You can't see the fact of violence in you. And what he wants us to do is to see the facts with which your facts being that you are a violent person, you are a greedy person, ambitious, power-mongering, all these things. So, physical facts and psychological facts. And Gautam Sahib has clearly explained different categories of facts. Thank you, sir. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Parthasaradhi, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not able to switch on my video. While listening to this discussion from the beginning, I was thinking of one thing, which is where Krishnaji says that the word is not the thing. And when we are talking about fact or idea or ideal, the word fact might not be the fact, and the word ideal might not be the ideal. When I want to understand what the word fact is, I'm wondering, like, is it related to the pure observation? Because one might say when when we don't know science, when we see the sunrise in the morning, we can say the sun rises in the east, and that is a fact. Like how we say that this is a tree with the words and communication we know. So the sun rises in the east is the fact, but it is not the truth. So what is the relationship of fact with the truth, and the relationship of fact to observation? And if it is related only to observation, then is it under the ambit of limitation of one's own observation? And this is not to get lost in the words without understanding the thing, because the words, I feel, are the only vehicle for us to understand and also a tool to explore and express. So this is what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Parthasaradhi.
Yes, Mr. Verma, please unmute yourself.
Audible, sir?
Yes.
Okay. I am asking the same question differently. is it possible to see something without any background? Without any background, optical as well as psychological, because example of tree is frequently given in JK talks, as well as those who have read JK or listened to him. Trees, can you see a tree? Now it's a mystery that way. It's a mystery. So if the mystery is the outcome, and that's why you call it seeing things as they are, without any words, without any knowledge or something like that. So is it possible to see something without any background? That is what my question is.
Sir, let me add some thoughts to this. But before I say more, I see several young people here. So I'd just like to invite them. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. Just because this is a group which meets every Sunday and you are a visitor here, you don't have to curtail yourself. If you wish to ask a question or you also add a comment, you're most welcome to do so. Yeah. So let's say we look at a tree. Or you look outside the window and you see there's a tree. But you don't just see the tree. You also see the contours of the window. You don't see static tree. You see the tree moving. You see some dry leaves falling. You see that there's a bird which suddenly making a large amount of noise for some reason. It got excited because it saw something or some other creature came near it. When we say tree, do we mean all this conglomerate of phenomena? Is that what we call the tree? Because then there's a very interesting thing. It's not just one thing at one time. It is many things happening. There are worms, there's bark. All this is happening. And then there is the sky behind. The leaves look very different in the day and they look very different in the evening. So when we say tree, we have an emoji of a tree in our mind. And that emoji gets activated. But what kind of tree? How big are the leaves? How is it moving in the breeze? Or is it just completely quiet? So Krishnaji describes a tree being completely quiet in the evening. He also asked in some place, can you be like a tree, sir? Profound question. No, we don't know the fact. We don't know this tree at all. So the word tree is just a way for us to quickly make a connection between something in our brain and something there. So the fact, when you say, is the fact a mystery, sir? The fact of what is out there, we can never describe comprehensively in words. Can we make some contact with it? Well, that's in the realm of exploration, discovery for each person. So I'll stop there, sir.
Thank you, sir. Very rightly, sir. Yes, we'll take Navya and then we'll go to some other people who have raised their hands. So Navya, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So one thing that Gautama, you said in response to someone else earlier was, should I condition someone with my own thinking? Which I've been thinking about since you mentioned that, because I realized that who we are and our entire view on the world and anything we encounter is perhaps enhanced but also clouded by other people's perceptions, other people's facts and ideas and thoughts and observations. So even the very same tree you mentioned, if I see a tree, my mind is completely my view of the tree is a tapestry of other people's view and facts and information about said tree. So how can I not condition someone else when I tell them of this tree that I have observed? So even if I were able to detach my ability to observe the tree from other people's perceptions of said tree, when I am sharing my observation with you, for example, everybody's history with that tree comes into my observation. and I condition you whether I attempt to or not.
So nicely put, Navya. Really, this is, we are the describers, we are the storytellers, we are the carriers of all the stories of humanity. All the things that are being told to us consciously and unconsciously, we have picked up. So, how do I not communicate this, take it to the next generation and the next communication? How do I create that space where whatever I bring can be questioned? Krishnamurti says, question everything. And do we welcome that questioning? Do we have that space for that affectionate questioning, deeply questioning something? Do we want to create that space? That's number one. Second thing he says, Krishnamurti also says that it's a very good question, but don't ask anybody else because they will tell you and you are finished. They'll give you one more formula out of their basket of tricks. So it's a very good question. And he gives some example in one place of saying, I'm listening to a story. I'm listening to something being told. Can I listen in the moment without making it into a memory? That's a very interesting question. You raised that question for us to consider. Yeah, I hope I met your question in some way. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Dinesh ji, please go ahead.
Are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yes, sir.
You said, sir, that we should encourage for the multiple answers and various answers for the same question. That is okay in the case of quantum physics, where already there is a uncertainty in this thing, and it creates uncertainty there also. So, do you really feel that in the practical life, one can having this unsure mind with multiple answers, can you move in this practical world? Because in most of the technological worlds, either one answer is required, or one has to zero it down to that one particular answer.
A very, very, very important and a very good question. I'm sure the young people in the world and people in schools and colleges are meeting this. The world is inviting them just to fit into the society, because that's the only solution. And Krishnamurti seems to suggest that the role of school is not to help young people just fit into society. It's quite an arduous thing. Now, if I were to meet it at another level, for instance, we think there is only one solution. We think the plastic bucket and the plastic mug is the only solution. We think close-up and Colgate are the only solution for cleaning our teeth. That's not true. And technology, if you dip into technology, you have so many different solutions for every problem. You have the suspension bridge, which is there in San Francisco, and unfortunately it collapsed in Morbi because of the design's number of people there were more than that. You have railways where there are seamless rails, they're all welded together, so there's no noise. You also have the bullock cart. You also have the feet where you carry very little luggage. There are multiple solutions. We still have the freedom to write letters by hand and post it. We don't use it. That's another story. We have got mesmerized by technology, and we become, therefore, people who don't see solutions. And we think that our way of looking at it is right, and this is how we condition everybody else around us, including the younger generation. All in the name of affection and freedom and trying to make sure that their lives are successful and practical. This is a bit of a trap. There is a movie called Pay It Forward. It's very interesting. I don't know if you have seen it. You should maybe have a look at it. There is one philosophy which says, what you sow, you reap. That means you sow some seeds and you will get a nice crop. But let's say you give a lot of money to somebody because you felt from your heart that that person needed it. Or you did something which was very, very important. We don't know what the consequence of that is. We don't know if we'll get anything. To say that it's impractical and that you must give somebody who extends his hand before you, you must give him only 5 rupees or 10 rupees is entirely based on our calculation of practicality. What would happen if you put 100 rupees in his hand or 1,000 rupees? God knows. We don't know. Maybe we'll be freer inside. And I must say that I have been very deeply conditioned in this area. I had to learn a lot about this after my marriage, but it was very difficult for me. My mind was very conditioned in this area. I believe that if you did A, you got B. But maybe B is defined in a very interesting way through our actions. It's not linear. The non-linearity which you spoke about, sir, quantum mechanics, that non-linearity is a daily thing we can feel in our lives. Okay, this is my perception of it, but of course, welcome to not agree with it. Perfectly fine. Go on, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. We can go to Mr. Shivkumar, please. Please put your...
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are. If you can possible, please put your video on.
Yeah, my camera is not working. So is that okay? I can...
Yeah.
No problem. Go on, Mr. Shivkumar.
Okay. So very interesting talk. My question is something to do with moment to moment. Moment is something which you already explained, like, it can't be captured, like, by words, and it's beyond the capture. The moment you capture, it is not that moment. We lose that moment, right? But when we say moment to moment, of course, language has its own limitation. By somehow, like, of course, when you say moment to moment, like, we say, like, from what is to another what is, from one moment to another moment, and you see what is and move to the other what is. But when we say moment to moment, is there me coming into picture, giving movement to the moment? Movement, as we know, like movement, time, thought, all that comes into picture when we say movement. But is there, in a very subtle way, somehow, like, I try to capture in the language saying moment to moment, that is kind of movement. Is it really that, or is it just a moment? I don't know whether my question was clear. I just thought I'll ask.
So maybe I understand. I'll explain to you what I understand from your comment. You're asking, is there only the moment? And even to look for the next moment itself is an aberration of thought. That's what I'm hearing you say, I think. I think it is very true. There is this moment. In this moment, I am angry, sad, happy, whatever. Now, the next moment, what happens, I don't know. And this moment may not connect to that moment directly also. So, while I'm in this moment, I'm aware that this is how I'm feeling at the moment. And when there is a shift, when what happens in the next moment, my mind pursues my attention, which Harshad Parekh used that word, attention, awareness. The awareness is alert enough to pursue, to be aware of what is unfolding next. That is all that can be, I think, spoken of in terms of words. I don't know how else to speak or what else to say. Yeah. So I don't know if that's what you're saying. That moment to moment can itself become a catchphrase, another emoji.
Yes.
Plenty of emojis nowadays.
Thank you. Yes, Harshad bhai, please go ahead.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, Harshad.
Yes. Some years ago, I was teaching in the Valley School, Bangalore, and I was looking at a tree, and there was nothing on my mind. But one friend, he passed by and he asked, is there something interesting? And I just said, everything is interesting. So he liked my answer. Actually, everything is interesting if we see without thinking, and it looked very, very fresh, very beautiful. And this kind of dimension of looking is there within us, but it is not awakened. And even before I read Krishnamurti, I was just looking, but there was nothing newness in looking at tree or a human being or colors or shapes. But after reading Krishnamurti, I became very curious to look at my own mind without trying to interpret it, and to see whether we can really see our own thoughts without adding more thoughts. And then something began to happen in my brain, in my body. And then I begin to see everything so fresh, new. And that happened about 40 years ago. And it has been like that. So I would say, yes, it is possible to look at anything, whether it's a human being or a tree or a flower or a bird or a mountain. Everything can be seen without thinking. And this thinking is a kind of a habit which we have acquired because we have gone to the school and added so much memory. But in spite of that memory, there is a possibility that something else can happen, and we can look without this knowledge without the interference of knowledge. And that is what Krishnamurti would call intelligence, awakening of intelligence. It is a different way of looking. And I felt when I looked at Krishnamurti, he was like that. He was looking at everything just like the children. They look at a flower or a butterfly and they don't ask questions and they are just looking. But we have acquired so much knowledge, and even asking question can become a habit, and even if somebody gives an answer, it may not mean anything. So actually, one has to see, not ask question, not verbal, but non-verbal seeing, and that is the real beauty. Okay, I have finished.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Yes, Mr. Arun Partha. Yes, Arunji, please go ahead.
I think Dipti has been waiting for a while. Dipti has been waiting
for me, I think.
We'll go to Dipti after Arun Partha. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So my question is only related to few words of Krishnamurti, what he has mentioned about the words are conditioning, test it out, examination, and all that. So please correct me if I'm wrong. Like with the words which you have put up, facts and ideas, my understanding is like conditioning itself is a kind of fact, but very spiritual teachers have to with related to the self and the me. If you look at it, for me it is very real. But when we say it is non, spiritual teachers have told it as non-real. So when they say test it out, I already enter my testing process with some kind of conditioning. No. So when Krishnamurti says you are jealousy, can you see that? Can you see that? What is it? Is it like the his fact becoming an idea? Because idea is to see. No. So please, can you tell me like what I'm missing? I'm not able to really understand fully.
So, sir, I can share with you my own dilemma when I listen to Krishnamurti. When he says, you are jealousy. It's not that you are jealous or that you're angry, but you are anger. Now, I think the separation from what we see, so there's a very subtle thing that he's pointing to, that in the moment of anger and you are not separate. For instance, our vocabulary itself distances ourselves from anger, as if saying, I am angry. I am something and angry is something else. And I remember, discussing this with some colleagues in the school, and we were playfully suggesting that maybe this vocabulary should be different. We should say it differently. Instead of saying I'm angry, we should say anger and I are one at the moment.
Yeah.
No, that's very interesting. That the vocabulary builds the distance. To say anger and I are one is a statement of fact. It's a very interesting thing. So, listening to Krishnamurti, I think, if you ask me, and this man is saying this, then you and anger, jealousy are not separate or anger not separate. The fact is that he is saying it. The fact is that with my wheel of conditioning or the wall of conditioning in my brain, I don't know how to listen to this. Nothing in my experience prepares me to listen to a man who's saying that you are jealousy. Hey, nobody has told me this before, and it doesn't fit in with anything I hold in my consciousness. So I have a moment of crisis. And in that moment of crisis, as human beings do, we clutch at something or the other. And words are our branches that we clutch as the twigs. Clutching at straws, yeah. Words are our straws that we clutch at. So that's the second side of what you were saying, sir. Yeah, yeah, Dipti, go on, Dipti.
Yes, Dipti, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes. So I think I had the larger question about knowledge itself after listening to everything. Like how, firstly, then therefore, if we cannot know anything because facts are so changing, won't our whole, like, how do we relate to the world? Won't everything collapse? And we don't have a way of possessing knowledge, and because of that, everything that we know and everything that we can know crumbles. And then where does that leave us?
Yeah, very, very interesting question. And I think this is a question that a lot of young people who have their life before them are encountering today. The world, and similarly the older people as well, the world that we knew is changing. In fact, has collapsed and is dramatically transformed. 50 years ago, I went on a cycle tour for a month, and there was no phone contact. There was no way of communicating with home, and we lived wherever we lived. Today, it would be unthinkable that somebody goes on an expedition like that, even though it was a very safe and a small expedition, without a cell phone. Life has changed. There are more anxieties. Social media is a reality. Corporate power is on a scale in which we have never seen it before. And we are more and more being pushed into the zone of just being consumers, into just being that number, that consuming number that matters, who has to be influenced. This is happening. And this is changing. Till yesterday, Twitter functioned in one way, and Twitter has stopped functioning in that way today. In fact, even after Twitter has been taken over by Elon Musk, he has said, look, I think you're going to see a lot of changes, and you're going to see see us making a lot of mistakes. So things are going to change, and there is no guarantee. In fact, this is the biggest crisis today for us. In a changing world, what are our certainties? And that's what I hear you asking, Dipti, which is a very, very valuable question. And in that sense, what Krishnamurti has to offer here is to say, understanding ourselves, the individual matters. The individual's consciousness is the consciousness of all mankind. If this consciousness learns to function or transform so it functions in a different way, not in the manner in which it functions through divisions, through justification of all the emotions, through religious and other divisions in society. If this consciousness, human consciousness, one individual's consciousness, if the individual can transform, it affects the consciousness of mankind. And one may discover that there's another way of functioning. So this is the deep message that he has to offer. There are a couple of articles, and I'll share them with you as well, which I have, read this morning. One of them is an article from his talk in Sun, and where he talks about words. And he talks about how the main purpose of education is the transformation of consciousness. And today it is becoming so real, because what knowledge do you help young people learn? Whatever you could hold today as knowledge, tomorrow it changes. What do we do then? So I don't know if I've addressed your question, Dipti, but that's how it occurs. And also Krishnamurti says that within yourself self is everything. So as you study the book of life, you study the book of yourself, you understand a great deal about the world. You understand about life. Yeah. Yes, sir. Dubeyji, I am done. Who's next, please? I'm not sure. Dubeyji seems to be something. One of the others.
Prasad sir, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to revert to your observation earlier. Your anger. When you are angry, your anger, there is no difference between you and anger. You are anger, you are greed, you are envy, etc. Now, Krishnaji wants us to observe ourselves from moment to moment. When I have to observe my anger when I am angry, not a split second afterwards. If I am anger, how do I observe myself in that moment, in that very moment, not afterwards? Is there a bit of a contradiction in that?
So maybe the first step is the last step. The first step is, when I'm in the throes of anger, do I want to be different? Because that seed is already there. It's so deeply coded in my personality, in my consciousness, that to be angry is wrong. So I'm angry, I'm experiencing anger, and I'm wanting to change it at the same time. There's conflict. So in the moment, you can only experience fully, wholly, whatever there is happening. That's all one can do. And that's my understanding, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, Anandji.
Yes, sir. So when I'm angry, I say I and anger are one. There's no fragmentation. There's no separation. That's nice, sir. And that is what I seem to be doing most of the time. I see something beautiful and I appreciate that. All right. Now, what happens when I see something ugly or something which is not very nice? I move away from it. I don't want to look any of those things which I don't like or which I find ugly. I only want to see something which is beautiful, and I say, I am with that. So can I see my own contradiction, sir? I go out, I see something beautiful, I see the morning sunset or sunrise or sunset, and I see some beautiful flowers and things like that. I'm with it. You know, I love to go walk around the gardens and things like that. The moment I see something ugly, immediately you see it's. I'm again back to
let me bring some life to this from the village, sir. We are all civilized people. I'm sorry, that's a slightly bad way I'm using that word. We are modern people, we are well dressed, we are educated. I mean, we don't do much physical work, and we are in well ventilated locations. And we work, and people who come are all fine, everything is okay. Then the man who works in the garden happens to walk in, and he's been in the sun for an hour, and his body is sweating, and there is the smell of sweat. Do we call it ugly, sir? Do we call it unpolished? We judge people so much by their dress and their smells, so that the natural sweat, which has been part of the soil of this land through which we get our food, we have an objection to it. Our nose can't stand it. This is the crisis, sir. We don't understand fact. We have already got a coding which says, if you smell of sweat, there is something wrong with you. How terrible. How will we relate to this village? How will we relate to somebody who does physical work? How will we relate to our children who want to come and hug us after having played a game, or grandchildren, and they're sweating and they're dusty? And we have so many of these assumptions which have been untested. We have not examined them.
So my point is, sir, it's my view or my opinion, whatever it is. One has to be really sensitive to look at these things, even the ugly thing. There has to be communion between beauty and ugly.
Sir, I'm asking you, is it ugly? Is sweat ugly? I'm asking.
That's precisely what I'm saying. I mean, the moment I say it is ugly, I mean, there's a fragmentation, there's a division, which I don't, which I'm not looking at it also. I'm not looking at it also. I avoid it.
Absolutely.
That's what is happening here.
That's right.
So I'm saying sensitivity is very essential, whether it is ugly or whether it is beautiful.
Yes, sir.
But most of the time, I'm going only after beautiful things and nice things. I read
Yes,
Krishnamurti,
so-
which is
so-
very nice, and then I want to follow him.
Wait, sir. But so in that sense, I like strawberry ice cream. I like gulab jamun. I like kheer kadam. And I keep going for kheer kadam every time. Anything else that anybody gives me, I only feel bad that I don't have kheer kadam. Can you imagine the tragedy of this? And we talk about openness. This is the catch. And I think the question you're raising is very important, sir. The question I hear you raising is, seeing all this, what do I do as a human being? That's what you're asking. And I think that's a very valuable question. So only we should try to answer it in words. I think we should hold it and see how to move ahead. I think we are very close to 12:30. So do we want to continue, sir, or do we want to wind down? What do we want to do, sir?
I think we can take one more question.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So there are 3 hands raised.
I leave it to you, sir.
Very difficult choice. So I'll let Harshad ji make the last comment. Yes, Harshad ji, please.
Yes, this beauty and ugliness are, there is something beyond beauty and ugliness, is to see everything as it is. But like when I walk in the city, look at the lake, there is a lot of garbage there. So I immediately write to the municipality or the Prime Minister's office about doing something. So this seeing becomes an action. And if it is beauty, you don't need to do anything. Now, I want to say something about a dialogue which we had with Krishnaji in Rishi Valley, and discussing about the problems of human beings, psychological problems like anger, fear, jealousy. And at that time, Krishnaji asked, how do you approach a problem like that? So something came out spontaneously from me, and I said, sir, you can approach a problem properly only when you have no problem. That means to be in the state of awareness, and then if there is something coming like anger or fear, watching it, and that watching resolves the problem. That means one has to be in the state of awareness, and when there is this awareness is not there, it creates many, many problems. So our main problem is the lack of awareness, and not that we have got a knowledge. Knowledge is useful, but it doesn't become a burden. But without this intelligence, knowledge becomes a burden, and it prevents, and it keeps our mind churning with many, many questions, which may not lead anywhere. But the real thing is to look non-verbally what is happening within us. And if that has not happened, to look at non-verbally what is happening within us, then this intellectual exploration will go on until we die. Okay, thank you very much.
So
Thank you.
can I
Thank
put
you.
a question, sir, to this?
No, may I just try to
sir,
wind
may-
down now by saying a few things? See, I
Sir,
think, yeah.
Gautam sir, I think Gogte ji wants to ask something. We'll take his
Gogte ji,
question.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gogte ji, missed you.
He's our senior most
Morning,
member.
sir.
So we should...
Namaskar, sir.
Namaste ji, Gogte ji.
Nice to see you after a long time. You have given a very good talk and I appreciate it very much. I wanted to say hello to you only.
Hello, sir. Lovely to see you. I remember the walk with the Neel guys on the shores of Varuna with you. I really remember the walk in the forest. I really love that. Thank you. And your visit to Pathshala as well. Thank you, sir.
Sir, the Sayadi School forest is also very good. You can visit that sometime.
Okay, sir. I'll do that, sir. Now, Dubeji, may I say a few things just to kind of concluding and rounding up? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. There is a very beautiful talk in 1965 that Krishnanji gave in Rajghat, where somebody asked him, why should truth be so impotent? And he says, because truth has no action, truth is weak. Truth is not utilitarian. Truth cannot be organized. It is like the wind. You cannot catch it. You cannot take hold of it in your fist and say, I have caught it. Therefore, it's tremendously vulnerable. Impotent like the blade of grass on the roadside. You can kill it. You can destroy it. But we want it as a thing to be used for a better structure of society. We want to organize truth. That's what we want to do. And I'm afraid you cannot use it. You cannot. It is like love. Love is never potent. It is there for you. Take it or leave it. I'll share 3 links in the chat, and maybe the people who are interested can have a look at it, please. And then we can wind down this session.
Yes, sir. Then we have come to the close of the session now, and I want to thank profusely Gautamji for sparing with his time with us. And it was a very beautiful talk. I think something full of thought, and it evoked so many questions from people. I think there are people who still want to ask questions. So maybe Gautamji will have to come some other day to pick up from here, and we'll do that. So thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. I think the links have come. One link has come on the chat box.
I'm sending the second link and the third link, sir. Yeah, all the links are there, please. So I thank the Indore Circle for this invitation. I hope the interaction has been meaningful. I'm always worried when one has to talk. I don't know if one has really more to say or anything to share that is really meaningful for others. And I was happy that there were so many questions, so many interactions, so many different voices. And it was a particular delight to meet my old students here and to see their faces and to hear their voices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Just to make an announcement that next Sunday, our session will be at 9:30 a.m. and we'll have Mr. Michael Cronin, who has agreed to speak to us on, is it possible to live Krishnamurti's teachings? And what does this imply in one's daily life? So if you're free, please do join us. Gautam sir, if you're free next Sunday at 9:30, please do join us.
Next Sunday, I think we'll be in Banaras, if I'm not mistaken. We have the teachers' conference.
Yes.
It may be difficult, but I would have a look at the recording. I know Michael very well.
Okay. So
thank you, Dipti.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Please end it, Modak.